Now, here's the thing. You must have a big team of humans kicking around in the background. You must have 1,000 humans doing this stuff. You've got to lead that team. What's your philosophy on leadership, Robert?
Patience. So I have, at the moment, 7 full-time employees. I think at one point I was at 10, but it's so scary to hand tasks off to other people, right? You say, no one can do it as good as me. No one can do it as fast as me. They'll make more mistakes, and all that's true, but there's only one of you. And if you try to do it all, you'll hold yourself back. You'll just be a little mom and pop. You'll get bored. You'll be overloaded, overwhelming. You need to have a team.
Welcome to the Find Your Influence podcast with Anton Guinea, where we unpack all things influence and we help leaders particularly find their influence by talking to amazing humans and finding out what influence means to them, who they've been influenced by and who they have influenced. And this podcast episode, proudly sponsored by the Guinea Group of companies. The Guinea Group helps leaders upgrade, upskill, uplift their teams and their influence. Welcome everyone to the Anton Guinea Find Your Influence podcast. For all our viewers and listeners out there, thank you for joining us. It's great to have you on. We've got an amazing guest today who I could introduce in one line. Robert Plank is the voice behind the Anton Guinea audio books online. So if you've ever listened to any of our audio books, Robert Plank is the voice behind the books, which is really, really cool. Robert Plank is a podcaster as well. Robert has done 1,000+ podcasts, which is just crazy over a 10-year period, which he shared with me recently. So I was really, really impressed by that. That's quite inspirational. We're talking about influence now, but I think influence comes before impact, which is being memorable, and then comes before inspiration. So I was just amazingly inspired by the consistency behind that. That was my intro. Let me read the official formal intro. Robert Plank is a US-based podcaster, author, audiobook narrator, and entrepreneur. And what Robert really does is helps thought leaders and adventurous, I love that, adventurous, like is that skydiving or something? Business owners use audio content to build their authority, to expand their networks, and I love this, and I've used this word already, to grow their impact. Robert's the founder of DFY podcast, a full-service production, which means done for you, I'm presuming. A full-service production and growth agency that launches, manages, and automates podcasts for clients. Whoa, that's a cool service. Removing technical burdens and turning episodes into consistent traffic and business opportunities. Robert Plank, thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here. You're amazing.
Oh, you're a legend. Now tell me, what did I miss?
Well, you missed that public speaking is the number one fear. And when I was a teenager, when I was in high school, I was so bad at it, and it was so frightening, like it is for many people. And I felt really held back, but I was so good at computer programming. Like I can code faster than typing, and I can just make the code fly through the screen. But I kept feeling really limited from the lack of socializing, personality, charisma, public speaking. So I leaned into the skid, so to speak. I went to where the fear was, and that led to building a list, starting my own business, doing online courses, and then I hit this other bottleneck of the dreaded traffic problem, trying to get attention to what you do, trying to get those customers to come in. I did a little bit of stage speaking, but still, it was such a grind. And what has really worked for me over the past decade is this thing called podcasting, because you have a show, you invite people to it, you have these conversations, you speak to people, including yourself, that you never would have maybe been able to get in front of because you lead with value. You get on other shows, you get the publicity going. This whole thing called podcasting, it's a great filter because not everyone does it. A lot of people let the fear win. But if you can figure out podcasting, guesting, and hosting, you can fight the AI bubble, you can network, you can make content, you can attract the right people, figure out your branding. It's like such a great solution. Everyone needs the podcast if they're serious about growing their business.
Beautifully put. I love that. Well said, so succinctly put. And everyone needs a podcast. for all of the above reasons, which is what you said. So for anyone, for our listeners, our viewers out there, Robert, like, it's a big deal. It's daunting. Like, we've got a 10 grand studio here, courtesy of COVID. We've got, we've literally I've got 3 monitors, I've got 2 cameras. Now we've got Riverside. We've got, a phone as a backup. We got, microphones and all sorts of stuff. So some people that would be daunting. To some people, they're like, holy shit, do I need all that stuff to start a podcast? And I've had people ask me that question. I say, no, just record them on your phone and upload them. Like, for people out there thinking about it, and maybe who do have a fear, like thought leaders who don't have a podcast, what would you say to them?
I would say you have to start somewhere. And if you are, and it's like choose where you're overwhelmed, right? If you're overwhelmed by the technology, then great. Use your phone to record it in your car. It's got great acoustics, right? Vehicles are made with lots of padding on the inside, so that way if you get in a wreck and you hit your head, it's padding, so it makes for great acoustics. And you just hold your phone, and I mean, how many TikTokers, YouTubers you see on their phone anyway? And then you mentioned Riverside. I use that too. I love it. It has a mobile app, and even if you join it on your computer, join it on your phone also. And so, like a couple of weeks ago, I had a guest on my show where he was driving to some meeting in some co-working space, and he said, hey, you guys have a couch there. Can I use your couch to be on a podcast? He took his phone, put it on a tripod in front of the couch, and just sat on the couch like it was. I mean, the studio looked just as good as yours, right? Because it had the couch and the lamps and all this furniture, and we just had a conversation. Yeah, and it's like the look of it is the icing on the cake, but what's really important is what you have to say in these conversations that you have. And so if you can think about your vendors, so to speak, right? Your mentors, your customers, the people you buy from you, you bounce things off, kind of like how we have the magic conversation today, and you can crank out the content, you can have fun, and that kind of overrides a lot of the hesitation you otherwise might have about podcasting and content. You're just having a conversation.
I love it. And I think what you're saying then, it's not about so much the tech, as long as you get the conversation right. It's more about the content rather than the stuff, the hardware maybe.
Yeah, the tech will get there, right? It's like, and I'm sure you geek out probably more than I do, where sometimes you say like, "Ooh, I'll try a new ring light, I'll try a new microphone, I'll try some, something new on the wall." You kind of incrementally improve as you kind of reward yourself, right? You say, hey, I recorded a few shows, I'll gift myself and I'll set this up. Now I enjoy my space even better. Now I want to record more podcasts. So it just kind of adds to itself and ramps up.
I love it. Well said. And today, if you looked at my calendar, I'm literally recording something like 8 podcasts. Started at 5 on the hour, literally for most of the day till about 4 o'clock this afternoon. And so, when you're right, I think that's important to have a space. Actually, there's gold in what you just said then. Feel comfortable, forget about the hardware, the tech, but feel comfortable with whatever you've got at the time and make the most of that so that you want to do it.
Oh, yeah. And, I love your enthusiasm, because I have, I for sure for a few years was hanging around the wrong people, right? Who had bad attitude, arrogant, that sort of thing. But then when I had more people in my life, such as yourself, who was encouraging and supportive and was excited about the people they were going to speak to that day, about those 8 meetings, then that changes everything, right? Because you say, who cares if I'm late, if they're late, if the meeting won't record, won't join, whatever the issue is, I'm excited to speak with this person, right? I'm excited to change their lives and the lives that will help together when people listen to the podcast.
Love, mate. Beautiful. And thanks. Thank you for that. Like, I appreciate it. And, I get energized by people like you, and you elevate, my energy, and the people on the 4 o'clock podcast, or sometimes it's coaching. I might have, like, there's not, and I say this regularly, I said it at our Christmas party last night, Robert, that there's not many people that on the planet that could manage a schedule like I run a lot of the time. Like, imagine an introvert doing 8 1-hour conversations like this, but not only doing them, having the eighth conversation as passionate as the first one and starting early. And that's the key. I'm lucky that I'm extroverted, but in saying that, I'm lucky that I'm around good humans. And you just mentioned that then. I think our energy is contagious. I think our emotions are contagious. And I think being around great humans really, like, I don't get why people aren't. I don't get why people have to be so negative and they just drag each other. Misery loves company.
Yeah. And it comes naturally, right? Evolutionarily, when the tiger is right outside of the tribal base camp, you want to be afraid. You want to think about all the ways that it might go wrong, right? In caveman times, you might slip and fall and break your leg and die, and the walrus will eat you. And so it served us for millions of years to be negative. But now that we're in a civilization and more enlightened times, it's no longer the survival of the fittest. It's more lifting others up. So we have to kind of better use our outdated software.
Love it. Love it. And do it on purpose, like do it with a real commitment to, being our best selves. So I always say, Robert, leave people better than you found them, and you've had a good life. You're having an impact on other humans.
It's like when you go camping, right? Don't leave garbage. And if you find garbage, pack it out. And that way you're just improving the situation.
Oh, nice. I love it. Don't leave garbage behind. Geez, there's a metaphor for life.
Oh, yeah. Use that. Use it in your next book.
I will. Oh, now you're talking that you can narrate for me.
All right. Keeps me in business. Yeah.
Now, here's a question for you, mate. You've been doing this for 10 years. Off tap consistency. I am in awe of people that are so consistent like you. What kept you at this gig for 10 years? What is it? Is it just because it generates business, or do you love humans, or what's the real underlying thing?
I think that to be honest and a tad selfish, that it generates business, that it works for me. And I found something that it was enjoyable, the first few dozen podcasts. And I am an introvert, so I do know that I need to recharge a little bit, and I need to challenge myself and evolve and have that self-awareness and be really careful about a few of the landmines, right? A landmine is maybe taking too long of a break and then letting some other habit fill in the gap. A landmine might be if I have like too much negativity, like we were speaking of. So there was a little bit of like having the faith to get it rolling, and then having the discipline to keeping it going, and then maybe a little bit of like superstition, because I know some of the numbers. I know, like, if I do this handful of podcasts, it'll lead to these other sales, and I want to keep that momentum going. And if I let myself get bored, or I give this up to do something else, then that's bad. So I think that the discipline is huge, and knowing what my morals and values are, and things like saying, well, if there's a calendar in front of me, I'll show up to it. I can't let anyone down. But then like also evolving, because when I started podcasting, most podcasts 10 years ago were just audio. And so then we added the video component. We did it on Skype, then moved to Zoom, then moved to Riverside. And then now I do like pre-calls and post-calls, and now we use AI for the show notes. Now we put it on YouTube. And so you kind of like build the beast as you continue, and it becomes more fun the longer you do it, ideally, hopefully.
I love that. So you have faith that this is going to work. You have discipline to continue, because you're superstitious about stopping now, that if you do stop, you lose business. And at the end of the day, you got to keep evolving, and you got to build the beast.
Yeah. And you got to be relevant, right? I mean, we all have that fear. You go on LinkedIn and you see these people with like 10 comments, 100 comments, 1,000 likes, and you're like, I'm already not being seen as much as I wish I was. Imagine if I stopped the podcasting or stopped creating the content. So we have to be doing the things that stay relevant. Imagine if someone checks out your website or your social media, your YouTube, your LinkedIn. You don't want it to say last posted a year ago. You want to be prolific.
Yeah. Last post an hour ago.
Yeah.
I
And
love
if
it.
you have a team, you can do that, right? You show up on podcasts, you have a podcast, you put out the reels, you put out the posts, you have many posts throughout the day. So that way, anytime someone shows up, they say, hey, this is a serious business owner, not just someone that's doing this as a hobby.
Mm, I like that. S- it's all symbolic, isn't it? It's how you look. Here's a serious business owner, um, and the way you get seen as serious in our industry or in media, particularly, is being prolific, is being consistently prolific. I like that. There you go, um, mate. I love that, and I also love the topic of influence, as you know. So I wonder, how would you define influence? I say the word influence. What's that mean to you, Robert Plant?
Ooh. To change and improve the way people think, to give people new perspectives.
Whoa. Change thinking, new perspectives. I like it. Nice. So, with that in mind, can you think of someone, Robert, over your time? And I'm guessing there's probably some personal, maybe it's parents or grandparents or someone. Or what about someone professionally? Like who's changed your thinking over time or given you new perspectives, maybe even new perspectives of what you're capable of?
Ooh. So I had a mentor maybe 15 years ago. His name was Armin Morin, and I heard about this guy. He ran events. He was a legend. He gives he would even do events in Australia, do Australia, UK, America, and I related to him a lot because he was an internet marketer and he did software like I did, and he was all about the simplicity. And when other people would make crazy software that did like 18 different things, he said, hey, this is just software that would make your ebook cover. This is just software that would make your article generator. It's like, hey, this is useful. This is simple. And I met him and I was just at some random event and he had this whole circle of people around him. He might as well have been Tony Robbins, right? He had a tribe, a clique, and he shouted at me. And I was just like some 23-year-old. And I was like, this famous guy is shouting at me. And he said, hey, Robert, I know of a way for you to double your income overnight instantly. Are you interested? I was like, of course. And he's still shouting at me across the room. He said, double your prices. And at the time, I was selling things for $7, $27, and it was scary, but I did it. And I had to do all these other things like run webinars and take my lists and all these other things seriously. But that still hits me real hard decades later. Just like sometimes you have to do these things that are scary, outside your comfort zone, that have other requirements attached to them, right? You double your prices, you have to really like get your traffic working. You have to really follow up with customers. But I loved the simplicity of him and the simplicity of that statement, double your prices.
And did you double your income?
Yes, more than.
Oh, wow. Isn't that great? Isn't it?
Yeah,
Isn't it amazing when you get advice, you take it and you see results, and then you're grateful for the advice that you got.
of
Big
course.
circle.
Oh,
Well
yeah.
said. What was Ahmed's last name?
Morin, Morin.
Oh, man. I'm gonna have to Google that, Yemen. That sounds like a human worth following. Still around?
Yeah, still around, still active. I think he does a lot of AI now. He'd be great for your show.
Oh, there you go. New podcast guest. I like that.
There
How
you
you
go.
feel?
Yeah, the networking continues.
Always, 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 always. So, do you, Robert, like, actually, let me ask you this. Who's been your, and you might not be able to answer this. Have you had a favorite podcast guest? Like in 1,000, is there one conversation that stands out that changed your life, that influenced you to do better, be better, think differently?
Ooh, I've had a few. I feel like every 50 or 100, I'm like, this is the new best guest. And so someone that stands out to me quite a bit is this guy, Rod Cleef, and his last name's so hard to spell. It's like Khleif. And he's this guy that he kind of was the whole package. His niche is real estate. He teaches people how to buy and rent out apartments. So there's a lot of moving parts there. And he's a Dutch immigrant to America. And he just had all these different like stories about his rough childhood, about money swings, about what he's learned about getting his mind right and meditation and affirmation and lessons. And I was just really impressed that it was just like multiple facets, angles we were hitting at it from, right? Because there's the money aspect, the business, the psychology, the self-help. So about every 50 episodes is when I'm blown away to a new level, but he's the most recent blown away guest.
I love it, Rod Cleef. Thank you so much. That's amazing. Every 50 to 100 guests, you have a blow away moment. I like it. And in saying that, how do you get guests on your podcast? What's your strategy? Do you scour the internet? Do you use connections? Do you use contacts? What's your strategy?
LinkedIn is my favorite networking tool over the past 5 years. It used to be when I started the podcast, I would look at bigger podcasts than mine, popular podcasts, and I would contact those guests. I'd make a spreadsheet and say, hey, there's such and such podcast. Here's the guests they had. I'd look up their websites, look up their email, and then send some messages. And these podcast guests that are serious, they've been on hundreds, right? Even someone like you, right? If someone sent you an email and said, hey, I have a show, can you show up? Of course I will. Here's my bio. Introduce me. I'll have a conversation. It's worth my time. And so that's how I got my first several hundred podcast guests. And then at that point, I would get solicitations. There's all these podcast booking agencies where if someone is launching an app, launching a book, launching a business, they're looking for publicity, but the legacy media is kind of, it's tough, right? If you wanted to get on TV or radio, maybe you have to pay for it. Maybe you have to kind of talk for months on end, and then you just get the tiniest little segment versus you can get on podcasts all day long. So a lot of these PR companies, they go and contact podcasts. So I got to the point where I didn't have to find guests because I started by finding the good guests, getting them on my show. And then because that made my show visible, then other of those types were attracted. And then here was the problem was then I found the podcasting to be a distraction from my business. Is I would do all this business stuff and then, oh, it's time to do another podcast. Oh, here I am making money doing client work, switch gears to now I'm podcasting for free. So something had to change. And you always hear about like the sales funnels, right? And people say like, make your sales calls and do your follow-ups. But then the problem is that if you have an offer, like I've got my Done For You podcasting, if I just approach someone randomly, they're not interested. They don't want a podcast. They don't want to talk to me, but you use your podcast to warm someone up. And then there's two possible paths, right? They might become a client. They might become a referral source. And so I began using LinkedIn to send messages and get to networking. And then, well, what do you say in messages? Oh, well, here, what's your link? Here's my link. Buy my stuff. I'll buy your stuff. That doesn't work. But instead you say, hey, I'd like to have a conversation. I like what you're doing. I'd like to help introduce you to my network of people. Again, who's going to say no to that? Well, some people will say no, right? The ones that maybe are arrogant, or maybe it's different niche, not a good fit, or they're too afraid to be on a show. But the ones that do want to be your friends, a podcast is a great first impression. And so I just kind of every week, and I do a little bit of automation and have virtual assistants. They go on LinkedIn and they find people based on keyword, job title, that kind of thing, add them on LinkedIn, and then send the message and say like, hey, do you want to be on a podcast? You want to do a 5-minute meeting to get to know each other so I can hear about your book and your business, what you have going on. And then we schedule a 20-minute podcast where we record it and I put it out there and I follow up after that point. And ideally, if someone is a guest on a podcast, maybe they want to have their own podcast or they know someone who does. So the LinkedIn's been just such a great tool to find those serious business owners as gifts.
Wow. Congrats, man.
Thank you.
For all of our viewers and listeners out there who are thinking about podcasting, I think you've just found your resource. So, editors, can you please put a link to Robert's stuff under our? How do people find you, Robert Plank? Is it just robertplank.com.com?
Yes, the podcast is called The Marketer of the Day. You can find that at robertplank.com. And then the podcast company is dfypodcast.com.
DFY. I love it, mate. I love it. Done for you podcasts. So how many podcasts would you manage now? Like how many podcasts are you done for you?
I currently have 20 monthly clients.
Whoa. You are doing podcasting definitely for a living. 20 monthly clients. And do you do the interviews for their podcast? Like they do the interviews and then you just do everything else. You do the editing, the back end, the upload. So you do all their platforms for them. Is that the process?
That's right. They create the content. So if you're a future client, it's up to you to do the Zooms or the Riversides. You find the guests, you have the conversation, you save the video file, give it to us. We do the rest. We do the graphics, the SEO, posting to your blog, podcast platforms, social media, YouTube Reels, all that stuff. You just focus on showing up, having these fun conversations.
Wow. Congrats. So in saying that now, you're a business owner, so you influence other business owners and, hopefully you influence their business and their outcome and their success. Who are you most proud of? Like, maybe you can give us a name or a business name or something, but which one of your clients have you managed to influence, like Ahmed Morin had on you, and you can see their growth, or that who have you influenced the most, I guess, is the question.
So I would say my favorite client is a very wonderful man named Jonathan Crutchfield. And he lives in Tupelo, Mississippi, which is the birthplace of Elvis. And he's a former school principal, and he started real estate. And I think he has 300 properties right now. And we influence each other. He's the reason I have the service, because I used to have like different packages, and I'd say, the cost is this, the cost is that. And he's like, can you just have a monthly service? And it's like $500 a month. We do all of it. And if you have an episode per week, an episode per day, we just do all of it. And so he has had his kids on his podcast, his wife on his podcast, his different students. And I mean, he bought an old rundown church with like the big church bell on top and renovated it. He's bought whole blocks of like, like little rural towns and, fixed them up. And so he does the work. I mean, real estate, there's a lot of work, renovation, legality, technical, finance, but then there's also being a mentor to others and showing other people what you do and displaying your uniqueness and then attracting more people like that to you. So he could just be, doing the work, doing the real estate, but he's also got the teaching social media aspect. And so that's Jonathan Crutchfield, and his company is Grab the Map. And he's just an amazing human being. And it's great to see the doing plus the teaching. And he's the reason why I have a simple offer, because he said, I can't figure out all this pricing. A lot of other podcast producers have all this pricing all over the place. Just how do I join this? How do I start a podcast? How can it be simple?
How do we do business in a very simple and easy way?
Yeah,
that works for both of us.
Yeah.
Wow. Nice. Jonathan Crutchfield.
Jonathan. It's spelled it's spelled so goofy. Yeah, it's JOHNOSON. You think it'd be Jonathan, and the AI corrects it, but it's Jonathan. So he's unique in many ways.
I love it. A unique human. I love it. Now, mate, I'm wondering whether you should double your prices, because like I do 8 a day and we put out 12 podcasts a month. My wife thinks that's too many. She gave me the gift even just this morning. She said, "Do you think putting out 3 a week is too many? Do you think 3 a week is too many? Like I am prolific. How many do you put out for your own podcast each week?"
7 days a week.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
good.
So I would say that's, yeah, if you're putting out multiple per day, maybe that's too many. So I say like that's my show's called The Marketer of the Day. So I think that if it's only too many if you're not getting results. And so I am a month ahead, 30 days ahead. And so we just have a machine, we have a system. And I kind of secretly wish that my show was only one or two per week. That way I would have more time to like hype it up, follow up, do like run more ads, that kind of thing. But that would be the only reason, not for time management, not for being tired, but just to have more space to do the press, the publicity. But I would say two or three per week. I mean, get to one per day if you can.
Julie Guinea, you heard it first here with Robert Plank.
Yeah.
My wife's an amazing human, and she listens to every episode, Robert, and gives me, and like literally, she has elevated our podcast with feedback about how I interview, how the intro is. She's asked me to redo the intro and the outro, so I've still got to do that, and how we put them up, and it's so cool having someone that I know and love so much invested. So it's really cool.
Yeah, it's supportive. I love it.
Needs that good support. 35 years together, mate, and 31 years married, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now here's the thing. You must have a big team of humans kicking around in the background. You must have 1,000 humans doing this stuff. You've got to lead that team. What's your philosophy on leadership, Robert?
Patience. So I have at the moment 7 full-time employees. I think at one point I was at 10, but it's so scary to hand tasks off to other people, right? You say, well, no one can do it as good as me. No one can do it as fast as me. They'll make more mistakes. And all that's true, but there's only one of you. And if you try to do it all, you'll hold yourself back. You'll just be a little mom and pop. You'll get bored. You'll be overloaded, overwhelming. You need to have a team. And dealing and communicating with other human beings, it is a mess, right? It is imperfect. It is frustrating, but I told myself I had to do it. And then once I started doing it, it was so much fun, right? It became like an addiction of sorts because you say, ooh, well, this pile of work I had, someone else just did it for me. And like, sure, I had to like explain it to them, maybe check it a little bit at first and pay them some money. But you're like, hey, there's this time I won't ever get back. I got some of it back, right? Because I paid money for it. And so, and then you can like hire multiple people. And then one guy that really stood out, his name's Al. I'd had him for 6 years. I made him the team leader, and then he manages the others. And then there's this other lady on the team, Angelica, and she kind of is like a jack of all trades. Like if there's a difficult task, we put her on it. So everyone's got their own personality. And then at the end of every year, they get on Zoom and they like have like, in Zoom, there's like the Brady Bunch, all the squares. They sing to me and I don't ask for it. And it's so cool because it's like this team of people that they're all saying like, hey, like, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Robert Plank. And it's like, oh man, it just feels really good. I've never met any of them in person. They're all in the Philippines, but we sometimes talk over Zoom, and it just kind of, it puts me out of my comfort zone in a weird way, right? Because there's these other people that I'm influencing and they're influencing me, and they're all overseas workers. And if they didn't have this work, like maybe they'd have some other employment, but for all I know, they might have to like go work at a stuffy call center or go into the big city. And so it's just, guys like you and me, we're changing lives, aren't we?
Changing, mate. And that's what it's about. We're lucky enough that we've got two amazing editors that have been able to buy a house, that have been able to buy a car, that have been able to, upgrade their lifestyle, because obviously we pay way higher than anything that they could, achieve in the Philippines, which I'm really proud of and I'm really grateful to be able to do. So, yeah, it's really special. You're right. It's a special feeling to be able to be a leader that can have that's impact more than influence, I think, to be able to change a life. So beautifully put. Mate, that's amazing. We try to go for 30 or 40 minutes, so that's perfect timing. And as you know, Riverside needs time to upload before our next episode. So, mate, you've been amazing. It's been a real eye opener in a lot of ways. Just how much work you do, how much work you get through, how big your team is, what you've learned along the journey. Biggest question that I always ask our podcast guests is, after this, would you mind introducing me to one or more amazing humans? You've given me some names. If you've still got some contact details, would you mind making that introduction to maybe Jonathan? I could probably find Ahmed online, and I think you gave me another name somewhere, Rod Cleef. I don't know if you're still connected to Rod, but yeah, if you wouldn't mind, mate, because that's how we get our podcast guests, just through introductions, if that's cool.
Yes, and then I think when we first met, I think I mentioned Pat Mesiti, who's big in Australia, but I don't think you've heard of him.
Oh, look, I have. Pat.
Okay.
Pat went off the radar for a little while. Is he back? Is he back in action?
I'm still doing work for him. Like 5 years ago, he came to me and he said that he has all these students that need books and podcasts. And so I've been doing client work for him like pretty much every week for the past 5 years. And so he gives me a spreadsheet and I go and meet with his people and I kind of mentor them. And then they work on their book chapters and we put out a compilation book every quarter. And then afterwards, as part of the launch, I go and interview them for a podcast. And so we've put out 18 books for Pat and 121 podcast episodes. And it's all just like the same skills, but applying that in like a B2B aspect for his students.
Wow. If you could make the intro to Pat for me, that would be really, really appreciated, sir.
Oh, yeah. And a couple of superstars.
Mate, absolutely. I've actually opened up for Pat at a session here in my hometown. I got asked to do the intro. He was coming up to do a guest speech, so I
Really?
through, which is really, really cool at the start of my career when I first started public speaking
Oh,
20 years ago.
nice.
Yeah.
And you and I are still at it. Some people quit or moved on to other things, and we're dedicated, right? We're passionate.
Consistent
Yes, disciplines.
through the and disciplined through the ups and downs, because we have faith and we have a superstition that if we stop doing this, the whole world's going to fall down around us. And I'm not employable anyway, Robert. I don't know about you, but I don't even know what job I would do in an organization now.
All right. I'd be so frustrated.
That's right. I don't think I could work for anyone.
Yeah.
I think I'd be a bit of a pain in the ass to lead now. But anyway,
Yeah. You drive them crazy, they drive you crazy. Yeah.
that's right. Mate, you're a legend. Keep up the great work, and we have to talk more. And listen for our next audio book coming out, which Robert narrated for us, and that's the Leadership Trilogy. So I can't wait to see that out. We've got that approved on Saturday morning, mate. Thank you so very much for doing that.
Yes.
And here we are, still talking and still podcasting and doing business. So I think we need to do more business. I might reach out again offline now that we've had this conversation, and now I know a little bit more about what you do, which I should have already, but don't mind me. I'm slow on the uptake. So thanks for everything, mate. Thanks for all your support. Have a Merry Christmas, and we'll talk again soon.
All right. Have a good one.
You too, champion. Love your work. See you, Robert. Thank you for listening or viewing our Find Your Influence podcast with Anton Guinea. Another great chat. Please be one of the 10% of people who follow and subscribe and like our videos so that you can get more of them and you can hear more of our amazing conversations, the conversations that I get to have and that I get to share.